Thank you, Alisher. Yes, so I'll be presenting. First, let me introduce myself first before saying something about how we decide the name Init. Next slide, please. So my name is Jason. I'm a trained mathematician, and currently I'm working as a AI researcher, engineer, both. And uh, I came from the Philippines, and so in 2011, I received a scholarship to do my PhD. So that's why I got into Japan, and then I just stayed. I basically just stayed. I did more research, and then I eventually got some postdoctoral, this JSPS postdoctoral fellowship, and then and this and 2020, it's 2 years, and then decided eventually things change, and probably going machine learning is the way to go. So earlier, some people are asking about some PhD guidance and things like that. So I've actually spent time with some people who message me on LinkedIn, like asking things like this. And when I have time, I accept such such things, and it's always fun to connect and just share my experience. Thank you. Yes. So as you see, I transitioned from academia to industry, doing machine learning, and so when people approach me that, I'd like to share the experience and on how this transition, how I was able to do this transition, because I try to share people what I would have wanted to receive by that time, because things are, it's easily, you can easily get lost. So I understand mentoring is, I think, very, very important. So yeah, feel free to hit me on LinkedIn or on Twitter, and I'll be happy to share my experience, and that might be helpful for the community. So currently I'm working in AI Inside, doing a bunch of different things, not only AR technology. So it's a mix of computer vision and NLP. So this small sample here is it's a model I built. It's a Vietnamese handwriting that it reads you the handwriting. Um, there's a lot of challenges like data and things, but so basically this is my hands-on deep learning experience. Next slide, please. For MLT contributions, so I've annotated the M2 that I usually annotate every paper, most papers that I've read, but a lot of the other papers that I've read are mostly OCR related, so I might not be able to share those. But this one, I think it's okay. The object detection one, I think is okay. And I've presented a couple of uh, I've given a couple of presentations in math reading. That is where I started in MLT, joining the ML Maths, and it's a very nice experience. The community is very active and very interactive, and it feels safe to talk, to share, and I think it's very fruitful. It's a very fruitful use of time. So this is I just copy some screenshot of the collab codes as part of my presentation. I always try to get maybe a high level picture of some deep ideas, and then have them into codes, and trying to make difficult things easier to understand is basically my goal whenever I try to present. Next slide, please. As for my hobbies, I play guitar, and recently I've been learning blues a lot. Back when I was in university, we're playing British rock, like Arctic Monkeys and things like that. I learned to snowboard in Japan by after living in Matsumoto near the mountains. So, and I also love playing video games, in which of course, GPUs back there, right, are only used for video games. But now I don't see GPUs as video games anymore as a deep learning engineer. So the goal of this monthly workshop reading session that we call MLT Init is to give people good initializations. So we want that when we train a neural network, right? So we want to have people to be on having a good start, to help maybe smoothen things out and to catch up maybe faster on state of the art. We know a lot of things are coming, but we would like to try to get the fundamental stuff, which we believe of course we are getting a bit biased in what we would believe are fundamental, but we try our best just to share and to focus on these things, because we believe that knowing this will be easier to gain more stuff. Just these are what we think are stepping stones in order to be a more productive and reliable deep learning engineer. So that's why we call it Init, and give you a good initialization. So I think more details will be shared by my co-host Miguel. So Miguel will be sharing next, please.
Hello, everyone. Yes, so my name is Miguel, and as Jayson said, I'm also co-leading MLT Init. But yes, let me talk about that later. Let me introduce myself a bit first, and I'm gonna actually do the opposite. I'm gonna start talking about my hobbies. And later I will talk about my academic trajectory. But yes, so I like food so much, and not in the way as everybody does, but I enjoy so much cooking it. That's why I like these recipes that are very challenging. For example, I was recently trying to make this lamyan, which are pool noodles, and you need a lot of technique for that. So I'm still practicing because it's quite challenging and it will probably take some years. I like nature, and I'm quite lucky that I live in the middle of a forest, basically, compared to other people living in a city. I have a lake 5 minutes from here walking, so I'm quite lucky. I can just go there to relax whenever I feel like it and whenever the weather allows it. I also like languages. Now I'm learning Japanese, and as many of you guys, I guess. And I guess it's gonna take forever to master it. So I will be there learning it for a while. I also like programming, and that's something I do quite often. I think I spend all of my weekends, at least some part of my weekends, I do something related to programming. I have a lot of projects in mind, and I just wanted to quickly share one of them, which I think is very cool, and it got the attention of some people. It's a Twitter bot, which follows Twitter accounts that post things related to machine learning. So this Twitter bot basically collects those tweets that share links, and then it classifies these links into archive, YouTube, Twitter, GitHub, whatever, stuff like that. Right? And then you can, every 24 hours, it will tweet the archive link that had the most interactions. And this is useful to actually see which preprints are interesting, because usually those ones are shared by many people. So I made this because I have some colleagues that don't use Twitter, and I wanted them to actually know what's happening in Twitter, because nowadays I think it's a very useful tool to find interesting papers. So there is actually a website too where you can go and then you can find all of these shared links or these archive links or whatever. So yes, I'm going to talk a bit about my academic trajectory. First of all, I'm from Spain. I was born in Murcia. I lived most of my life in Zaragoza, which is a bit far. I studied my bachelor degree in computer science engineering in Burgos, which is another city in Spain. And I studied that for 3 years in there. Then I went to do a change to Finland. I studied there for a year. And that actually changed my life because I realized that I love being surrounded by international people, and from that point, I was just going everywhere else in the world, not just in Spain. So afterwards, I studied my master degree in Copenhagen, in Denmark, master degree in IT and cognition. And at that point is where I realized that I really like computer vision and machine learning. And that was what I wanted to do after that. But actually, after my master degree, I went to Japan for a year. I was working as a researcher in Kumamoto, in Sojodai University. And I actually was quite lucky. I met Kumamon in person, and I took a picture with him. And it was really cool because it's super cute. Actually, what I was doing in Japan was not related to machine learning or even computer vision. I was developing something like Google Maps, but for wheelchair users. For example, if you think about Google Maps, when you go from point A to B, you can choose if you want to see a good path for like when you walk, when you cycle, when you have a car, all of these things. But if you use a wheelchair, people actually have different needs. For example, when you use a wheelchair, you don't want to choose those paths that you have to go uphill, or you want to go through those paths that they have a roof, or you want to avoid the streets that are very narrow, all of these things. So I was actually helping developing this app. Then after Japan, I came to Finland again, and here's where I live right now. I live in Kuopio, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Eastern Finland. I just wanted to share 3 pictures of this wonderful city. You can see it gets really cold here. These pictures were taken 2 years ago, but this year it was even worse. This year, I think we reached even minus 25 degrees or something like that, which for me, it's quite shocking because I'm not used to it. But you can see that we have snow from, I think from November, sometimes in October, until even May. So we have 6 months of snow, and that's quite hard to actually survive, I think. But it's nicer than if you don't have snow, because, for example, when it's dark, the snow helps to make everything bright, and it's much better. Next slide, please. Yes, so as I said, I'm a PhD student here, and I just wanted to briefly mention my what I research about, which is rodent MRI segmentation, basically medical imaging segmentation, but in preclinical images. There is a lot of work in human data sets like brain MRI or cardiac imaging, fMRI, all of these things, but there is not too much about these things in the preclinical world, basically in rats or other rodents or other animals. And this is what I'm doing here. Basically, I work in a lab with, or in a department with biologists, doctors, and all of these things. And I'm just in a group with the other computer scientists, but we are kind of isolated from the rest of the computer scientists, I think. Next slide, please. So yeah, that was all about me. I want to introduce now or describe more MLT Init, which are the sessions that we are leading, me and Jayson. So MLT Init is basically a journal club for presenting and discussing papers. And we chose to focus on fundamental deep learning papers for now. And it's the reason that Jayson said we want to give good initializations. We want to improve our understanding of deep learning, basically. We organize these sessions every month, more precisely the second Sunday of every month, and it's at 5 p.m. Japanese time. Central European time, I think it's 9 a.m. So it's quite acceptable still, even in this part of the world. And one interesting thing is that, let me actually explain first how are the sessions. So the sessions have 2 parts. First, we have a 25 minutes talk or presentation where someone presents the paper that we're going to discuss, and then later 1 hour discussion. During the presentation, we encourage presenters to provide summaries, code, visualization, and anything that makes easier to understand the paper, because again, this is our goal, to make things easier. And then, as I've said, we have 1 hour allocated for the discussion. And the reason is because we want to emphasize the discussion part. We want people to actually turn on the microphone and join and participate as a general journal club, basically. And to do this, we kindly ask everyone to come to the sessions with the paper read already, and hopefully also with 2 questions and comments in mind, right? Because if we just go there and nobody has questions, it's quite hard to discuss. So we ask people to please bring some questions or comments. And this is actually not that difficult. I just typically print the paper and I try to pretend I'm a reviewer, right? I take the pen, I try to check every paragraph, every detail. There is always something to ask or to comment, something you don't understand, something that's not clear, something that is really interesting, these kind of things, basically. So yes, this is the official website or the repository of MLT Init, which is the machine learning Tokyo, and then just Init as in Python you would do Init. And so far we have scheduled sessions until June, so it's quite nice. There's many things to talk about. And yeah, there was also actually one question before about what can I do to collaborate. This, for example, is one of those things. People can volunteer to present here. One thing that we were thinking also is to have some kind of collection of papers and then vote which one might be more interesting. But for now, we already have a list. And yeah, so just please join. The next one is going to be in 2 weeks, the 14th of February. So please join us if you can. And that's it from me, for my part.